Tim Legler, ESPN, of course, joining us now to take a little deeper look at this Sixer team that through 27 games is 14-13, and playing some good ball at times. They had the losing streak, but Timmy, I thought that the win in Minnesota the other night, the game in Houston, you win in Houston against that team, that's your best win of the year. But I thought the way they won that game when they turned it over and over again against a good Minnesota team, I thought that was maybe the most impressive way to win a game for them all year.
No, I'm 100% with you, and I watched that entire game, and not only the fact that they're playing a really good team, they're playing them on the road, the fact that they came back. Okay, this is a team that still, I think, has a lot of things to figure out about how to win close games. Because I do think that if there's one thing I'm going to point out with this team that is going to frustrate Sixers fans some nights, the regular season, and maybe even in the playoffs, is their late game management. I still think there are some issues with it. But to go on the road, be behind, claw your way back in the fourth quarter, get the game to overtime, and then to basically outplay a team that's got, more veteran players that are go-to guys in overtime, that's a huge win for a team that, right now hovering around 500. They had Joel miss a couple games, so they had to right the ship a little bit, and they did it. And now you get to come home and play against Oklahoma City. So I completely agree with you. I thought that was a really good, gritty, dig your way out of a hole win on the road against a good team, and they're very hard to come by.
And they did it without Robert Covington, who they'll get back tonight. But, Timmy, now that we've seen about 30 games, it seems that the one thing they're lacking, and maybe that's Fultz when he comes back. I know you like Fultz, but they need a guy on the wing, take the ball to the basket, get himself to the line, create a shot. They're relying way too much on the three and getting the ball down low to Joel, and teams are double and triple on him, and he's been great, but he does turn the ball over because teams know that's what they're doing, or they're settling for three. They need that guy now. That's the next piece, the guy that can take that ball to the hoop.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, that's going to be nice. I mean, and this is a team that, you pull up their numbers, they're shooting about 24 free throws a game. It's ironic because you look at a team like Houston, and what does Houston do? They're either shooting threes or free throws, period. 3 free throws dunks. They have no mid-range game, and they're winning a lot of games that way because of, the talent and the way they've built that team around one great offensive player. So Philadelphia, I think, playing through Simmons and Embiid and surrounding him with 2 shooters on the wings like Redick and Covington, I think that makes a lot of sense. And those guys really fit well with them. I hear what you're saying. To have another guy in the wing that can handle the ball and get where he needs to on the court, not only to get to the rim, but also to be able to make a mid-range shot off the dribble if that's what the defense dictates for you. And then when I was talking a second ago about some of the issues they might have in late games, that's really what I'm alluding to. Because if you look at the top teams in this league, okay, they're going to put the ball in the hands of a guy late in the game typically that is going to make a decision here to decide how this is going to go. And if you are a guy that's handling the ball and a guy's going to go under the screen because they don't believe you can make a perimeter shot, it's going to limit to a certain extent what you can do in that situation. And I think with Ben Simmons, right now that's just not an option for him. That's not a shot he's comfortable with. He's got to add it. Teams can play him differently at the end of a game. It's going to lead to some frustrating possessions, I think, for this team. Because you can't just throw it to Joel Embiid the whole time and expect him to determine how it's going to go, because you can double him and take it out of his hands, and he's prone to turning the ball over when he tries to do too much. So to have another guy that you can run a ball screen, inside of 2 minutes, and if that guard goes under, to be able to pull up and knock down that 18 to 20-footer or even maybe beyond out to the three-point line, if that's the shot that's given to you, that's a whole nother level to close games out that they don't really have on their roster.
Jim
so
Legler,
to me, that's a big need that Markelle Fultz can full once he's back, gets comfortable, gets confident, gets into a rhythm. That can really pay dividends down the stretch in some of the close games you might have to win to make the playoffs, and then certainly once you get there.
Yeah, Tim Legler's with us. Let me ask you about Simmons, because he, really came on, not that he's slowing down or anything, but have teams kind of, they see you 20, 25 games, they start the game plan for you a little different. Are you noticing teams are playing him differently?
Well, I think that they're starting to now realize that, to the best you can, and he's actually been one of the best I've ever seen at still getting to the rim when no one is playing you to shoot the ball. Like, that's not easy to do in the NBA. If teams make up their mind that they know for a fact you're not going to take that shot, he hasn't made a 3 all year, and he doesn't even take mid-range shots. And yet he still finds ways to get to the rim and put up the stat lines that he does. It's really actually pretty incredible. But, yeah, I do see a more concerted effort to dare him to do it. And then we saw the one game where he was fouled 24 times, went to the line 24 times in a quarter or whatever ridiculous thing it was. You might see more of that now moving forward, where teams say, you know what, I'm not even going to give this guy a chance to break us down and let Redick and Covington get an open look or let Embiid touch the ball. Let's just grab him and see if he can go make 2 free throws, because the number of times he's gone to the line this year and actually made both, you can count on one hand. So that part of it might actually pick up. That's really what I'm looking at now with teams moving forward with Ben Simmons, because to me it makes a lot of sense. Until he proves he can knock those down, why let other guys beat you in their comfort zone because Ben Simmons is breaking you down when you can just send this guy to do something he's not really that comfortable doing?
Yeah, Tim Legler is with us. We get your take on Saric's fit and role. I like the kid a lot, but is he, if he's going to be your on the wing 3-point guy, is he the right fit?
Well, I like his fit just because I love Dario Saric's IQ. I mean, when he's on the floor, I just feel really confident that the ball's going to move the right way. He just reads defenses so well. He's such a well-rounded offensive player. So I think he's going to fit, really, no matter where he plays, because he just understands the game at such a high level. He's a guy that, you look at the way he finished up a year ago, and, I know people were super excited about that, and some people even had him as Rookie of the Year. And then you come into this year and you think, okay, he's going to pick up where he left off. The problem is, look at the position. Look at the log jam of forwards that handle the ball a lot on this team. So that's a problem for Saric to a certain extent. He's playing 30 minutes a night. You can't ask much more than that. He's not going to have the inclusion he did last year because you didn't have Simmons, you didn't have Embiid, you didn't have Fultz. So that's another guy to add to the mix that maybe even reduce his touches a little bit more. So, look, it is what it is. He's trying to be as efficient as he can in the 30 minutes he's getting when he doesn't really get the ball as much as you saw him get it a year ago. But I still think he's a guy that ultimately really helps you win and should be in your long-term plan.
Tim Legler is with us. Sixers Thunder tonight. ESPN has it. We'll have it on the radio when McGinnis coverage starts at 7. And Embiid has obviously just been incredible this year. I mean, what more can he work on? What more can he do? Where does he need to continue to get better?
I think the biggest thing is he's got to start to be a little bit smarter with the ball and the turnovers. He gets frustrating sometimes because he holds it too long. And when they're really good and they're moving it and it's hopping and he's decisive with what he does, and whether that means, hey, you take 3 straight power dribbles and just go through somebody's chest to get to the rim, or you take a quick jumper, or that great ball fake he's got on the perimeter that he drives to the rim, it's really special because you have to honor it because he can make that shot. Anything he does quickly, I have no problem with. I don't like when he holds it, jab, 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 trying to get a guy off of him, and then he turns and starts to back you down. Those possessions typically lead to something bad because they move the ball really well, and they get it hopping, and when they're tough to defend because every guy on the floor is a threat, it feels like. When he then gets it that half a dozen times a game where he holds it too long, they're very predictable. And when they're predictable, it leads to turnovers. So if there's one thing you're going to nitpick him about, it's that. He's averaging 4 turnovers a game in 30 minutes. And there's another probably half a dozen possessions that aren't turnovers, but they're not good possessions because he holds it too long. And so if I have one area I'd like to see him improve in, it is cut that back. He's always going to have some of those because he's so good. He's going to try to, beat guys. But cut those in half, those number of possessions where he holds the ball too long, and they're going to be better off for it, so will he be.
Now, Timmy, they got Booker in here on that deal. They finally, gave up on Okafor. Did you like what they ended up doing and just cleaning their hands of that? Or would you have rather, seen them give him some minutes and an opportunity and maybe some of those minutes that Johnson's getting? Or did you just think that was a lost cause?
I just felt like they came to the conclusion he wasn't going to fit in the way they want to play. And it would have been really difficult to play he and Embiid at the same time at any point. So if that's the case, Embiid's your franchise guy, what's left for Okafor? And even when he was on the floor, if he came in as a backup and played 15 minutes, what is he good at? He's good at one very specific thing, which is put him on either block, throw him the ball with his back to the basket, and he can get a good shot off. Either shoulder, either hand. He can do that, but that's not really the way the Sixers want to play. So even the one thing he does well doesn't seem to fit in with their plans. They identified that. I'll give him credit for that. Now, the one thing that hurt his trade value a little bit, I guess, when you sit there that long and you know that the team doesn't have to in their plans, it does make it a little bit more of a buyer's market. But Booker, I think, can play. I think that's not a bad pickup. And based on Okafor's value at the time, it's actually probably a trade that made a lot of sense. And I'm happy for Okafor because I want to see him get his career started, and let's see if he can play, and to what level he can play. So Brooklyn has a guy that gives them a need, and Philly didn't have that need. So I think it made sense, honestly, for both organizations. And now let's see Okafor get his feet off the ground here and see what he's able to do with a new team, new environment, and just hope that he doesn't come back and drop 30 on the Sixers.
And Booker gives him a veteran body. He's given them energy so far. I guess if they end up making the playoffs, it'll be nice to have that guy help them navigate their way through. Right now, they're not in the playoff field, which the Knicks won last night. The Knicks have played 18 at home and 10 on the road, so we'll see at Christmas time how that all changes. That East is kind of interesting, Legs. You got Boston, Cleveland, Toronto. I think all three of them we feel pretty good. Bucks, Indiana, Washington, no Wall, and then Detroit and the Knicks. How many legitimate openings in the Eastern playoff field do you think there is?
I think there's 4 teams for 2 spots.
4 for 2.
Yeah, because I think the top 3, obviously, right? And Milwaukee, then, once they've had Bledsoe, along that period of time, we're getting into that range now. That's something they really needed. That's a team that's clearly going to be a playoff team. Indiana's legitimate. I don't think that they're a contender, but they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, I've seen enough of them now to realize that they've got a good player now that's become the identifiable star of their offense in Oladipo.
Yep.
They've got other pieces around it. The number one thing they have is they've got incredible chemistry. Like, those guys love playing together. So that's a lot. So I think Indiana's a solid playoff team. Washington's best basketball is going to come. They've had some injury issues. They've been a little inconsistent. I don't like their depth, but their starting 5 alone, they're going to be a playoff team. There's no question. That leaves Detroit, the Knicks, Philly, and Miami. Those are 4 teams for 2 spots. And if you ask me today to lay money on it, absolutely Philly's getting one of those spots. I had them go to the playoffs before the year started as well. That leaves Detroit, the Knicks, and the Heat. 3 teams for 1 spot. Now, Detroit had the great start. They're coming back to earth. I do not like Reggie Jackson as my primary decision maker late in games. So that to me, is going to be a disqualifier for them. The Heat haven't really played as well as they did at the second half of last year. Maybe they get hot at some point. And then you got the Knicks, who Porzingis has been out of his mind, and that's a team that's having a lot of fun playing now, too. And I think they will get better as the year goes, because I think Porzingis continues to get better. Ntilikina is going to get better as the year goes. I like their team chemistry right now. So if I had to lay money on it, definitely Philly, and I'd probably say the Knicks would be my second choice. I think Detroit and Miami that could be on the outside looking in.
All right, Tim Legler, ESPN, NBA, Sixers, and Thunder. That should be fun to see what Simmons, who matches up with Simmons, vice versa, against this Oklahoma City team that's had all sorts of issues on offense. They've actually played good defense, believe it or not, and we'll have that game for you 7 o'clock tonight on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Timmy, we appreciate it, pal.
Okay, anytime, guys.